Good evening. I'm Chris Matthews in Washington. It's happened. After 4 campaigns of promising to enter a presidential campaign, Donald Trump has made the leap, at least into the first debate. The question now splashing from the pool of candidates is what this wave of human push and ego will do. Will it swamp the front-runners, those who are already Trump's ready targets? Will it displace the battle for the nomination with a battle simply to be heard above the din of the Donald and all his celebrity-driven Sturm and Drang? Will we be able to hear or even see anyone else when the spotlight shines on the golden boy from Gotham? And let's never forget, not for an instant, how Trump has these past years grabbed and clutched the media's attention with an unbending indictment that the President of the United States is foreign and illegitimate, that he somehow forced his way not only into the country's highest office, but into the country's life itself. Can the man who led this indictment, championed it to his signal advantage, now be taken seriously as his wannabe successor? Michael Steele is the former chair of the Republican National Committee. Joan Walsh is editor-at-large for Salon. Both are MSNBC political analysts. In his announcement speech today, Donald Trump talked about migrants from Mexico this way. Let's watch him do it.
These are the best and the finest. When Mexico sends its people, they're not sending their best. They're not sending you. They're not sending you. They're sending people that have lots of problems, and they're bringing those problems with us. They're bringing drugs, they're bringing crime, they're rapists, and some, I assume, are good people.
Well, that was nice, wasn't it, Joan? There was some. First of all, where is this sort of operation chief? Somewhere in HQ down in Mexico, Guadalajara.
Sending them.
There's people sending people off in droves in different complements of troops, the sick, the needy, whatever, the drug dealers. It's all organized by some capital in some province in Mexico. I mean, God, even the notion that he talks in seems fictitious.
It's
Is
crazy.
that too strong a word?
No, it's not too strong a word. I mean, I also think it's racist. I think we can use that word. I mean, this sounds like, this is like calves the size of cantaloupes, except it's not as funny. And it's really dangerous for the Republican Party. I mean, I felt like what we were seeing was kind of a bizarro world version of Jeb Bush's speech the day before. Jeb breaks into Spanish, Donald Trump breaks into nativist. And I think it's terrible for the party. I'm so happy about one thing, and that is that my friend Michael does not have to preside over this circus.
You know, Michael, he's looking out to the crowd, and I don't know whether they're black or white or a mixed crowd or whatever. It's really not important. But he says to the crowd, in saluting their native borndom, he says, they're not you. They're not sending you. You're good people. What a pander that is. Not people like you. These dregs, these losers, these criminals, these dealers. First of all, who is he going for? Let's talk politics.
Chris, this clearly wasn't the give me you're tired, the poor you're hungry.
No.
Don't give me any more of them is what it was.
Yeah, this wasn't that speech. Look, you know, that's Donald. Donald throws down. He throws down hard and stuff splatters everywhere. And the interesting challenge for the other Republican candidates is what type of check they're going to be on that kind of language, that sentiment. Is that going to be the brand that goes forth in the 2016 campaign, or is it something else? And I think Joan touched on a very important contrast between what we heard come from Jeb Bush yesterday in reaching out to the Hispanic community and what we heard today, not so much.
Well, as I mentioned, Trump, the Donald as he is, was one of the most outspoken birthers in the country for the last half dozen years, questioning the president's place of birth again and again and again, saying he's basically somebody snuck it under the fence from Kenya. Let's watch him at it. Let's watch this record.
Why doesn't he show his birth certificate? And you know what? I wish he would, because I think it's a terrible pall that's hanging over him. He should show his birth certificate.
Let me tell you, I'm a really smart guy. I was a really good student at the best school in the country. The reason I have a little doubt, just a little, is because he grew up and nobody knew him. Nobody ever comes forward. Nobody knows who he is until later in his life. It's very strange.
If Barack Obama opens up and gives his college records and applications, and if he gives his passport applications and records, I will give to a charity of his choice.
As recently as this February 2015, Trump continued to play the birther card. Let's watch about it.
I still would like to see his college records. I mean, I'd like to see a couple of things. And I'm not looking at his marks. I'd like to see where he put on. Hey, look, he wrote a book when he was a young man, and it said born in Kenya, blah, blah, blah. I don't know where he was born. I would like to see his college records. I think it's important. Trump comes along and said, birth certificate. He gave a birth certificate. Whether or not that was a real certificate, because a lot of people question it, I certainly question it.
Okay, where do we start with this, Joan? This attempt to delegitimize the president, to say he snuck into the country, somehow snuck into American life. He may not even been in American life. He may not have gone to those schools because nobody knew what those schools. The indictment here is so colossal that he's a phantom. A fiction himself, that Obama never really existed in these schools because nobody knew him. So how can he prove he ever went to these schools?
Right.
I mean, to get down to the level of this indictment is pretty raw. And what I got a thought about it, but your thoughts first. I have some thoughts about why he does this.
It is raw, and it trades on all the worst right-wing stereotypes about the president. He's Kenyan, he's foreign. Also, he's not very bright. We don't know what he really did in school. He may be fabricating that. He's not competent. So it pulls them all together in this massive questioning of his identity. I mean, I thought the day that the president had to show his long-form birth certificate was a truly sad day when this man, this carnival barker, gets to ask our president to show his papers.
He's
not going to let up with this.
He stopped him in his car and said, "Show me your license."
Right.
Yeah.
Show me that you deserve to be here. It was disgusting.
Okay, Michael, my friend, I want your thoughts, and I'll give you my thoughts, because I'm going to expand on them later about why he does this and why he... Okay, here's my thought. I'm in North Philadelphia during the campaign in 2008. A tough neighborhood. You know the neighborhood. It's down around Temple. And the neighborhood's never really changed. It's a working-class black neighborhood, and it's kind of tough. Tough neighborhood. And it's never really gotten off the ground. So when Obama came in there and gave his big speech, I thought, well, he'd be promising people benefits or something like you'd think a lot of big city Democrats do. Now, all he did was go in there and say, I'm going to bring this country together. I'm going to unite you people with the rest of the country. We're going to be one country. That got the biggest applause from these people who have nothing, who could have asked for anything, and they don't have it. And all they wanted was to be 100% accepted as not just equal Americans, fellow Americans. One of us. One of us. LeBron James, just as much an all-American as Tom Brady. One of us. That's all they wanted. Just be fully accepted as American. And this guy comes along and plays the card. Your guy, the one we've elected president, even he's not one of us. He's a foreigner. He snuck in the country. He's a liar. I mean, I want to go. What do you think of that, Michael? I think it's a calumny aimed at the heart of American hope, at the very idea this country will never quite get to, perhaps in our lifetime. But the idea of unity and equal fellowship, and he says, oh, no, even your best guy is a fraud and a foreigner. I think he knew exactly what he was doing, because the 20% of the country that still have a problem with this proposition cheered it. Now, that includes a lot of his business partners.
There's no doubt
his business dealings he makes with people.
Well, it plays to the lowest common denominator. There's no doubt about that. And I think that in large measure, the vast majority of the American people have rejected that argument and have moved away from that.
When are the Republican Party going to reject it?
Well, I can assure you
why don't they just say, why don't these fellow debaters say, I will not debate a man who goes after the president that way? Just a thought.
Well, I hope they do. And if he does, I hope in that moment on that stage that one of those individuals rises to the occasion and puts the appropriate check in place. I really do. I think they would. But I don't think that's going to be Donald's play this time. I think Donald wants to have a more serious, if I can use that term, conversation about some of the things that are important to him. But this was not the way to start that conversation when you use the name calling, when you make pejorative comments about people. And look, you're sitting there, you're going to build a wall and you're going to send the bill to Mexico as president. You're going to be waiting a long time to get that check.
Right.
So that is not how, that's not presidential. And that's a tone that he's going to have to change, I think.
Michael, you are so optimistic.
There's no excuse here for lack of intelligence. Donald Trump is as smart as anybody's run for president. He's up there. He knows how to make money. He knows how the business world works. He knows what he's doing. Yeah. And he does this. I don't know why he does it.
Also, you guys, he had a speech and he chucked it. I don't know if the racist line was in there, but he's not disciplined. He is running for these hot-button issues. Michael is way too kind, way too optimistic. The only thing I'll say, the only proviso I'll put on this is, he may not really run. This is not, quote, official. He has not filed papers with the FEC. We may have just watched a 45-minute infomercial where he got to claim that he's worth $10 billion.
No, he's in the first debate, Joan. I think we can be sure of that. He will qualify for the first debate.
I actually
he wants
hope so.
to be on that first. He wants to be on that stage, on that first debate in August. He is running second, third in most national polls. He is going to want to be on that stage, but I think Donald's going to have to do a little bit a different approach in order to stay on that stage.
We'll see. Anyway, Donald Trump did what he does best today. He sold the brand. He sold Donald Trump. Let's watch him in action.
Our country needs a truly great leader. And we need a truly great leader now. We need a leader that wrote The Art of the Deal. I will be the greatest jobs president that God ever created. I don't need anybody's money. It's nice. I don't need anybody's money. I'm using my own money. I'm not using the lobbyists. I'm not using donors. I don't care. I'm really rich. I'm proud of my net worth. I've done an amazing job. It was even reported incorrectly yesterday because they said he had assets of $9 billion. So I said, no, that's the wrong number. That's the wrong number, not assets. I'm not doing that to brag because you know what? I don't have to brag. I don't have to, believe it or not.
Well, Joe, what do you make of this guy? I get the point. He's $9 billion in net worth. It is an amazing success story.
Yes.
There's no doubt about it. I give him credit for it. But this, I was always taught, don't ever say you're rich. Don't ever say you're supposed to say, we're comfortable. He breaks all the rules. I mean, it's braggadocious.
Well, Chris, if I could, that is a very important point. He breaks the rules. He is the guy who walks into the china shop and just goes through it. And that's where the party is right now with him. You're going to have a lot of very staid, very coiffed and prepared candidates standing on that stage. And to their right and to their left will be Donald Trump,
who will say anything.
Coiffed as he is, will just
I wouldn't go after his coif if I were you.
He will say absolutely anything, and it's going to be very entertaining for us. But, Michael, what if you keep somebody like John Kasich off the stage? I mean,
that's a problem.
It's a big problem. I would think it's a big problem for you guys, right?
And I would almost bet you that a John Kasich or Bobby Jindal or any Carly Fiorina who are going to be sitting at home that night because they didn't meet the magic number, a real problem.
Let's agree now. We have some common ground coming up here. Donald Trump did talk about the need to rebuild our roads, bridges, and airports. Let's watch some common ground here, I think, for all of us. Let's watch them.
We have to rebuild our infrastructure, our bridges, our roadways, our airports. You come into LaGuardia Airport, it's like we're in a third world country. And I come in from China, and I come in from Qatar, and I come in from different places. And they have the most incredible airports in the world. You come back to this country, and you have LAX, disaster. You have all of these disastrous airports.
Donald Trump. A broken clock is right twice a day. He's right on that one. I'll tell you, it's always down in South Africa, a new country, newly democratic, a country that has the most beautiful airport in the world, and we've got JFK. Anyway, thank you very much, Michael Steele. Thank you, Joan Walsh. Coming up, there's a hot fight brewing between the right wing in this country and Pope Francis. The Holy Father's about to release an encyclical saying climate change is man-made, and we need to take urgent action, he says, to combat it. So now we have conservatives, including some who are running for president, caught between their ideology and their religion. Plus, the story that everyone's talking about, Rachel Dolezal, the white woman who resigned as head of the NAACP in Spokane, Washington, she says she identifies as black. We'll get to that with our roundtable tonight. And what's a Republican debate going to look like with Donald Trump on the stage? The guy's a gifted bomb thrower. And we've got some of his most outrageous attacks later in the show. Finally, let me finish with a matter Donald Trump needs to settle before we look at him as a serious presidential candidate. This is Hardball. Place Your Politics.